All right, bring in the music. All right, that's good. What are the lyrics? Wait, did you guys hear that in the background? All right, I think it starts off with...
What's that?
Well, let me sing, please. I'm the musician. I'm an amazing musician. You guys spent a lot of money to get me here. Let me
following us.
Good. Follow me on Twitter.
Wait, get to the clock.
Go ahead. All right, so... One,
God.
two,
That-
1, 2...
That's
Can you... Okay, this is ridiculous.
casting out demons.
Fuck this.
So, just to let you guys know, next week's going to be a little bit different. Zach and I both have birthdays, so what we're doing for you guys is we're actually releasing 2 episodes. So you'll be getting an episode on Monday and Wednesday.
Yes.
So that means tonight we're recording for like 4 hours straight.
This is so true.
So if we accidentally reference an episode you haven't heard yet, just forgive us.
Yeah.
You'll hear it soon.
It's all going to be okay. And we actually have a guest joining us later in a later episode.
For my birthday episode, we do.
Mm-hmm.
So
It's good to have people there for your birthday.
the prodigal son, Jackson King returns.
Yes.
Fan favorite.
The first time we're having a three-peat.
We are having a 3-peat.
We almost had another three-peat, but let's not get into it.
So speaking of things we aren't going to get into, we are going to get into the movie today.
Hell of a segue, Bailey.
Thanks.
If I didn't know any better, that was such a good segue. I'd wonder if it was really you in there.
Welcome to the podcast.
Hey! Of course, we're talking about Pod People, which are featured in what movie?
Invasion of the Body Snatchers. And just to clarify, this is the 1978 version, not the 1956 version, not the 2007 version with Nicole Kidman
which is called
and Daniel
Invasion,
Craig,
right?
Which is the Invasion,
Yeah.
yes. So this is the 1978 good old Donald Sutherland, which, yeah. So to start out, as we do every episode, here is our trigger tweet. Zach, do you want to go first?
Yes. This is Zach tweeting. Everything is fine. You can sleep now.
That's good. I put the original Jack Bauer Power Hour.
Because that's Donald Sutherland and his son
Kiefer Sutherland. I have a Kiefer Sutherland video that I'm going to post later that has nothing to do with this movie that just makes me laugh.
Sutherland's
so
all the connection you need.
It is. They actually...
That's actually how Kiefer Sutherland got his acting job, because Sutherland is the only connection you need.
That sounds like a realty company or like a phone company.
And then Jack Bauer's at the end with his thumbs up. Sutherland, the only connection you need.
They actually, what made me laugh so hard is that they actually they say 24 multiple times in this movie, like 24 hours, 24 minutes. And so I would chuckle every single time. If I could afford alcohol, I would have taken a shot. I'd have been drunk.
What do you think life's going to be like when we can afford alcohol?
Those are going to be the days when I can buy that $1.16 beer in the fridge at H-E-B.
Yes. I would do anything to have Frio Light in my fridge.
Oh my god. Okay.
And Natty Light in my bathroom.
So, and I also have a new segment. Get excited, guys! That I want to bring up later. So
you have a new segment?
I do.
Whoa!
I didn't even tell Zach before we got on the air, guys.
I am freaked out right now. Brand spanking spanking.
Brand spanking spanking.
Brand spanking bacon making.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Invasion of the Body Snatchers. For those of you who've never seen it, it's based on the novel by Jack, and I didn't finish this last name, so...
Kerouac.
By Jack Kerouac, yeah.
Sure.
It's a highly anticipated sequel to On the Road.
Yes.
And so, in this movie, people are... This woman who's our main character, who is Elizabeth. I'm really bad with movie names.
No, but that's her name. Elizabeth.
She's into plants, and she works for the Department of Health. And so she finds this plant in...
Yeah, because at the beginning of the movie, we get a little shot of space.
Exactly, and these things are descending.
Yeah, and what are these things, Bailey? They're flowers.
They are.
The Jack Bauer Power Hour featuring flowers.
That was...
I know.
So beautifully. So beautifully worded.
It's after reading Jack Kerouac's words, when these words...
Emerson is weeping from the grave at the beauty of that statement.
You want to elaborate on that?
Yeah. Emerson?
Yeah.
Ralph Waldo Emerson.
That's all I needed.
I'm the captain of my fate. I'm the master of my soul.
Damn. Yeah. Is that all him?
Yeah.
What a great guy. No, I don't doubt you.
We have a couple minutes in between to do corrections, so I can Google it if I'm wrong. So yeah, we get a little shot of space, like Zach said. Which, fun fact about that, did you know that when the alien spores like kind of rain down or whatever, they are raining down onto the Trans-America Pyramid in San Francisco, which used to be the headquarters of United Artists, which were the producers of this film.
That is some weirdly in-depth research you did there, Bailey.
Yeah, this is every week.
I forgot my glasses.
Oh no!
I don't know if you guys should really believe this is me or not.
I don't know. God.
Obviously, I'm kidding.
This is going to be for the whole episode. So...
It's me.
These alien spores are raining down. They end up in what I would assume to be like one of the parks in California. I would assume, since we have them on the Trans-American.
What's one of the parks in California that you know about?
I have no idea.
The National Park of San Francisco. The NPSF.
Is that real?
That's a real thing.
It's a real thing?
Yeah.
Cool.
I think it was founded, if I'm not mistaken, by John Hancock, same guy that did the Declaration of Independence. He wrote that.
Oh my God. Zach's been listening to a lot of topics, which you should listen to, which is a great podcast.
They make a lot of interesting points, and I've learned so much from Michael Ian Black and Michael Showalter.
It's a great podcast. You should definitely check it out. After us, of course. Listen to us first. We should be first in your priority. It should be us.
Well, I think if they're hearing this line of thought and they haven't heard of topics, then obviously they're listening to us first.
Yeah.
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 This is what horror movies are supposed to be, Bailey.
Topics?
No. I'm going back, obviously, to the invasion of the BSs, okay? Now, when we're talking about IBS, as I so frequently call it, this movie is like a nightmare that you can't escape. Every time a character, especially Elizabeth or Matthew, which is Donald Sutherland's character's name, they're weaving their way through the amazing plot line of this movie, and every time they see somebody, as the audience member, you can immediately tell that person's a pod person. I think that's amazing directing.
Well, and it plays off of the whole fear about losing your humanity, because that's why zombie movies do so well, is because it's just the idea of how far are you willing to go to save your humanity / how fine is the line truly between humanity and,
in this case, pod people.
Yeah, pod people, animalistic tendencies, like the line.
Now, do you think we are pod people because we do podcasts?
Ooh.
All right,
Why didn't we think about that as a potential name?
Because I don't want to get you on my trail, you know? I mean, if I was a podcast person, I wouldn't want you to be on my trail.
Oh my God. So, in this movie, people are replaced and become shells of their former selves. They don't really have a lot of emotions. They don't really have a lot of their underlying characteristics. They're very monotone, very robotic, and these pods look like... I'm trying to think of the best way to describe this pod. It kind of looks like something... God, I don't even know. It's like an overinflated pea pod.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to describe what they are. I think that's why they're called pods.
Yes.
Because the only pods known to man come from peas. Snow peas, you have the other kinds of peas, and those are the only pods that we know about.
Yeah.
So I think that in contrast, or rather comparison, we could say that, yes, these are just, maybe that's how they made them. Maybe that's what they modeled them after.
They look a little kind of like they're from Labyrinth, though. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I was kind of thinking about the movie Labyrinth.
Now, I've never seen Labyrinth, but I've seen clips on YouTube, and just the way, I don't know, the practical effects of it.
It's kind of like Tim Burton. It's like it's something that Tim Burton would create and probably be in like some sort of children's movie, like The Little Pea Pod That Couldn't.
No, this looks a lot like maybe some practical effects you would see in the original Star Wars, maybe on the planet where Yoda's at. You know what I'm talking about? That it evokes that kind of feeling of an otherworldly pea pod that's been inflated.
Exactly. So now that we've talked about the pea pod, y'all can imagine that. We can talk about the rest of the movie. So Elizabeth is... I don't think she's married to him. I think that they're just dating.
I think they're living together.
Yeah, I think that they're just dating. I don't think that they're married because it never makes any mention of that. Jeffrey.
Jeffrey.
Who, shout out to my brother and me. They did this really funny segment one time, and they're like, what to do if you don't remember somebody's name? And they're like, you just call somebody Jeffrey.
Is that true?
Yeah, that's a real thing. You can look it up. It's
Jeffrey,
really
I did not know that.
They'll be like, wow, Jeffrey? Yes, Jeffrey. How was it like being
So is that really his name, though? Is it Jeffrey?
It is Jeffrey.
Okay.
And so Jeffrey is the first person that we know of, that we, the audience, see to get infected. Mm-hmm. And so what happens is it's like this giant lint-looking cotton candy. It's like if dryer lint was cotton candy. Mm-hmm. And so Jeffrey's walking this out. Asbestos. Yeah, there we go. Mm-hmm. So he like has an interaction with Elizabeth, and in the first scene when we see them together, they're very affectionate with one another. They're fighting. They're very just like they're a normal couple.
They're a couple that have been together a little too long.
Yes. A little bit past that expiration date. And so he's very cold, and he walks out to the dumpster where we see in the garbage truck several of these just husk type
asbestos.
Things.
Yeah. It looks like the stuff that's under your couch if you have a couch like mine. You know what I mean? If you don't sweep for a while, then say you drop like, I don't know, like a bottle cap or some other kind of candy.
Or some cotton candy.
And then you look down there and you're like, which is which? Especially difficult if you're colorblind like me.
But they make it great for you, so you don't have to differentiate from it. They took you into consideration.
That's why it's my favorite horror movie.
So
I should say that, by the way. This is my favorite. This is my birthday movie. It's not my birthday movie, but
it is not your birthday.
It was originally supposed to be,
like,
but we both like it so much that we decided to both own it.
Yeah. So Elizabeth works with Donald Sutherland, who is kind of an ass.
I don't know if he's an ass.
He's kind of a lovable ass. Like when he finds rat poop, he works for the Department of Health, so he's a health inspector, and so he finds rat poop in their
Maybe it's rat poop.
Maybe it's rat poop or a caper.
A caper. It's a real caper. Which is another term for mystery. I think that's why they did that.
The last time I heard the word caper used in that context
was Vacation Bible School.
Was for Mary-Kate and Ashley. Oh. They're like...
We had different upbringings.
Sorry. I had that on Game Boy. Anyway,
Vacation Bible School?
Yes.
Okay. That's a great...
You know that game?
Yeah. So, now, it gets to the point where Elizabeth starts to think that it is not Jeffrey in Jeffrey's body. And this is shared with Matthew.
Who is Donald Sutherland?
Yes.
Yeah.
We should say that.
And so he suggests she goes to his therapist friend, who is...
Leonard Nimoy.
Spock, yeah.
Yes.
And he's like, you don't think of it as a therapy session, just think of it as a way for him. Because he thinks that she means metaphorically he's not Jeffrey and not actually.
And I should say that the director did a good job whenever we were first introduced to the Jeffrey character. He has headphones on. He's watching himself a little ball game. It shows how he normally is detached to kind of contrast with this new sense of detachment.
Yes.
So it makes sense organically why, let's say, for instance, that Elizabeth had been talking to Matthew several times because they're very close friends about how slowly...
And he totally is giving her fuck me eyes throughout the entire beginning.
Oh, that really... It is the reason Matthew is who he is in this movie. Everything centers around Elizabeth. And I think that's why the ending is the way it is, and we'll touch on that later. So... Matthew obviously, organically thinks that this is just the next step in Elizabeth and Jeffrey growing further apart to the point where maybe that they're not going to work out. And I think this gets Matthew excited, and we start seeing him be much more happy. Because at the beginning, he does start off as kind of an ass.
But you grow to love him. He's like the curmudgeon in like the Fox family, or that just dated me. The ABC Family show. And so as things progress, more and more people start to change. And we see more and more of these people. Like we see throughout the movie, the garbage truck is a constant. And so we see more and more people walking to the garbage truck and throwing out these husks, and just more and more people kind of losing their humanity. And so it finally, I would say that it comes to the
Boiling
first climax when they're driving down the street.
And a man
who actually, you have the same breakdown that I
Yes,
do.
I
Kevin
do.
McCarthy, who is actually the lead character in the original Invasions of Body Snatchers from 1956, is like, help me, they're coming, they're not who they say they are, da-da-da-da-da-da.
Now, this begs the question, is this a remake or is it a sequel?
I don't know, because I can honestly say I haven't seen I've seen the 1956 version once.
I had never seen it, but I read online about it because I was curious because I saw someone else brought this question to light that maybe it was actually a sequel rather than a remake.
Where did it...
Kevin
yeah.
McCarthy's character lives in the movie.
Yeah, where does it take place? Because it could have taken place in a different state.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter if it's in a different state. He could easily make his way to California.
Yeah, but
but you're saying you're saying
another state.
Yeah,
so he
good
left,
point.
and then that's how it got to California. No, I mean that's a good point.
Yeah, maybe a small town or something like that.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But doesn't the army get involved in the original? I think.
Yes,
I don't want to speak too much about it.
I've seen it one time and I was very young.
I saw a preview for it about a year ago, and I think I remember seeing tanks in it.
I think that they do, and so.
Can we actually take a pause in the plot line? Because I want to talk about this possibly being the best remake ever. Can you think of another movie that is a better remake? And I have a couple jotted down. I have The Thing, because the Thing is a remake from The Thing from Another Planet.
Okay.
And then True Grit. I think that...
Is The Thing a remake, though? Because I thought...
Yeah, John Carpenter attributes it as a remake.
Okay, he attributes it as a remake. Yeah, because The Thing's definitely better. And we're not talking about the new thing. We're talking about...
God, no.
We're talking about the 1970s, late 70s, early 80s. I don't have an exact date at the top of my head thing. True Grit, I agree with that.
I think the new True Grit was better.
I don't think it's better, but I can get behind. Rob Zombie's very hit or miss with me. Like I'm not a big Lords of Salem fan. Did not like that movie, but I really like his Halloween and his Halloween 2. I don't agree that they're better, but I do like them, and I think that they're worth mentioning. Exactly.
I don't like Halloween 2 at all. I should say that. I like the actual Halloween 2, but I don't like Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. I like his remake of Halloween because it's almost like a shot-for-shot homage.
I like why I like the second one though is I think it's cool to kind of get inside Michael Myers' psyche a little bit better, and I think that's why I like the second one, because in the second one, the Rob Zombie version, we see that it's not the nice suburban family that we're introduced to in Carpenter's world. It's a very broken family. The mother's trying to keep it together. He's teased at school, and there's a lot more. And so I kind of like that we take John Carpenter, which Michael Myers was just attributed as the Shape in the original movie. And so I kind of like that we get a little bit more into his psyche, and that's why I like it. It's because they kind of...
You do like that kind of stuff, though, whenever you get into the psyche of... Yeah, that's why. That's why we're doing your birthday movie.
That's why I chose the birthday movie that I chose, because I love that movie. It's a great movie, and I'm so excited.
We're going to have a lot to talk about on that one. But speaking of things a lot to talk about, great little segment. Let's get back to the movie.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So Matthew and Elizabeth go to this therapist friend of his at a book signing where we see a smoking young Jeff Goldblum.
I will even say that I think that at one point during this movie, he was in fact smoking a cigarette.
Oh, hey, young Jeff Goldblum. I was totally into it.
Oh yeah, who plays his wife but the lovable Veronica Cartwright, who we've talked about in 2 podcasts previously. Yes, we're talking about the young girl who was in Birds, who played Kathy Brenner, and she was also in Alien as a screaming young lady.
Veronica Cartwright.
Now I would
hate to see her therapy bill.
Oh yeah, but that scene, scene, you know what I mean? I don't want to jump too far ahead.
She was actually in The Invasion too, the 2007.
Really?
Mm-hmm. She was in The Invasion.
She killed the scene, you know. I think that both...
Well, when we get there, I'll tell you why. Did you research this?
I don't think I know.
I'm so excited.
So I bet I could guess, though.
Let's hurry up and get to it.
Let's talk. Oh my God, this movie.
So we start seeing these people are starting to take over, and we can tell. I knew right off the bat there was something up with Leonard Nimoy. Like I knew.
That's the question I want to talk about. Was he already a pod person? I think so too.
I totally think so, because there's a woman who comes in hysterics, and she's on the same page as Elizabeth. She's like, my husband's not my husband. And also Matthew visits a laundromat earlier that day, and the woman who regularly does his laundry is acting weird, and her husband's like, that's not my wife. She's not my wife. And so
we come back to that same man later, and he's like, she's all better now.
Yeah, it's so good. This movie is great with like the being cyclical. So
the dog. That's such so good. I have a little note here that says, talk to Cameron about how he believes the pacing of the movie drags on at times, and argue the shit out of that.
When they go to the reading, this woman's in hysterics, and Leonard Nimoy's like, it's fine, and they just... This is the point where Matthew kind of starts to see that something's going on. And so then we add on Jeff Goldblum.
Because at this point, he's trying to call the cops about what he saw earlier with the Kevin MacArthur character.
Exactly.
Kevin MacArthur is from the league. Sorry.
And so they're trying to get a hold of the police, who are also acting weird. And so at this point, we add on Jeff Goldblum, and we kind of cut to he and his wife own like a bathhouse, like a bathhouse spa. And so one of the men there actually leaves a plant for them that is our good old-fashioned pod person plant. Yes. And so Jeff Goldblum starts to not feel well. And so his wife's like, what's wrong? And so then they meet back up with Leonard Nimoy's character, because Matthew's like, let's all meet back up here, because at this point they all know something's going on. Mm-hmm. And so Leonard Nimoy comes in, and they're like... And what had happened before is Jeff Goldblum was not feeling well. And so his wife, they found a body. And they have Matthew come back, and it's Jeff Goldblum's pod person. Because he's like, how tall are you? And he's like 6'4", and he's like, how much do you weigh? And he's like 170. And Matthew looks at him, and that's when we realize that this is...
The process.
It's in a gestation period of becoming Jeff Goldblum. And so that's why what they do is they kind of take over you. So as you start to they can only become you if you fall asleep. Mm-hmm. And so that's why if you've seen The Invasion with Nicole Kidman, they give them shots of epinephrine in the movie.
I've never seen it, but...
Yeah, because there's a scene where she starts falling asleep, and her son has to stab her in the heart with a... I don't know why. That's the only scene I remember from that movie.
Yeah. It sounds like a good one.
I think that The Invasion... Don't hold me to this, but I think it ends the same way, and we'll get to that in a second.
Okay. That sucks.
So, yeah, because Jeff Goldblum kind of plays our Matthew character, and Nicole Kidman plays...
Wait, Jeff Goldblum's in this one?
No, not Jeff Goldblum. Daniel Craig, sorry.
Oh, okay.
I just have Goldblum on the mind.
Don't blame you.
So, he starts to not feel well, and so he's like, I'm just going to lie down. And his wife's like, no, don't do it. His wife's name's Nancy. I should stop calling her Veronica Cartwright. And Nancy's like, no, don't do it. And so he lies down for a second, and she goes and looks at the body, and the eyes open. And so she wakes up Jeff Goldblum, and his nose starts bleeding.
Mm-hmm. And we should say earlier that Nancy accidentally ran into Jeff Goldblum's character and hit him in the nose. That's why his nose was bleeding earlier. Yeah. And that's why the pod person would take on the same... ailment.
Exactly. So then,
and I want to say at this point that Matthew realizes that Elizabeth is in danger
because she has gone home to go to bed at this point.
Yes,
and so this is when they've realized everything
is real.
Shit's hitting the fan.
Yeah, that he realizes that people are being taken over and replaced by pod people, which are just copies of the same person. So he realizes that she's going back into a similar situation where she is definitely, if she falls asleep, she's going to be turning. Matthew calls.
So Matthew calls and goes to get Elizabeth, while Nancy and
Jeff Goldblum.
Goldblum, we don't know.
Boldblum.
We're going to call him Jeff Goldblum because we love you so much, Jeff. And so while they're doing their thing, and so she wakes Jeff up, and he's like, I'm so thirsty, I'm so dry, because they just legitimately, you're just a husk of your former self, and you just wither away and die.
And you turn into a dust bunny.
Exactly.
Like from Rugrats.
Dust bunny. Or the big comfy couch. Right? Those are cute little dust bunnies.
Yeah.
These are not.
These are not cute dust bunnies. They're very symbolic of, losing your humanity. You're losing your humanity. I'll take it one more time. Losing your humanity. There it is.
That's
I know
me
how to
in the corner.
I know how to talk.
I'm just gonna make really bad REM references. So
no such thing.
So she wakes him up, and so once real Jeff Goldblum's awake, his pod person essentially dies because the gestation period isn't completed. The cool thing about this is in their gestation period, it's actually the noise that they make is Ben Bertle. He used noises from his wife's ultrasound, so those are actual baby
gestation.
Noises.
Oh, yeah. Very cool.
So, and then the screaming noise that the pod people make. If you're not a pod person and a pod person sees you, they make this noise, which actually is the sound of pigs squealing.
That makes sense.
Yeah. And also, this is the really cool thing. So the further we go in the movie, the more pod people take over, the less naturally occurring noises we hear. Like, there are no, like, diegetic, just natural noises. We only hear mechanical noises and silence.
That is true.
To represent, like, the death of, like, naturally occurring things.
Absolutely.
And so, at this point, we have... So, Matthew goes to save Elizabeth, who is falling asleep.
And being turned into a pod.
And being turned into a person. Yeah, because they have, like... A
perv.
And so we're getting coffee at intermission, guys. Yes. And so they like have a garden because Elizabeth is very into plants. She's a scientist.
A botanist.
Mm-hmm. I stole the word right out of my mouth.
Yeah, I mean, I read The Martian recently, which is about a botanist who was lost on Mars. It's a very good book.
Very cool.
It's a page turner. I'd recommend you pick it up, and then it depends on how you like to read books. I guess you could set it down on a desk or something like that, but I wouldn't put it down until you're done with it. It's a good read.
We're sponsored this week by The Martian.
We were sponsored this bit by The Martian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's that said? So he goes.
He gets there.
Yes, and
opens
he sees
breaks in through a window.
Yeah, sees the sunroom. Mm-hmm. And we see Elizabeth, who's almost fully formed, except she doesn't have nips yet.
Yes.
No nips.
Which comes back into play later. I know that sounds kind of silly, but it's very symbolic whenever you see nips later in the movie.
It's like Kyle XY.
You know it's over.
Without the belly button.
Yeah, okay. I've seen previews for that. I know what you're referring to.
I've never seen an episode. I just know.
Yeah, I just know that.
Did you know that he is with Aaron Samuels?
Who was Aaron Samuels?
Aaron Samuels in Mean Girls. That's his boyfriend.
Oh, yeah, that is. Yeah.
Anyway.
Shout out to Lindsay.
Shout out to Lilo. And Tina Fey.
Tina.
Just everybody.
Tina.
I'll actually talk about Amanda Seyfried in a little bit.
Good.
It's actually relevant, I promise.
I'm curious to see how it's relevant.
So he picks up Elizabeth, who's too weak to walk. She's falling asleep. She's turning into, you get this like goo stuff on you that kind of looks like Nickelodeon gack stuff.
And you also look very sunburned, like you're peeling too.
Exactly, like your skin's just legitimately
becoming a husk. A husk.
So he grabs Elizabeth and he takes her back to Jeff Goldblum's, where Leonard Nimoy is also meeting them. And so they all meet up there, and they realize
there's an important distinction here. This is kind of the first hint that you get that Leonard Nimoy is actually a pod person, because they let him go in by himself to see this thing. And it's not there, but the window is open. And what's her name? Kathy is her name in the movie? She realizes this.
No, her name's Nancy. Kathy was the birds.
Oh.
Yeah. She's in so many things.
She's got, yeah. Good for you.
I want to say she was maybe in Lords of Salem too, but don't hold me.
Okay, I won't hold you to it.
So
Nimoy allegedly probably just threw the husk out the window.
That's what I think.
Yeah.
And so they show up, and so Matthew leaves Elizabeth with them and goes back to the house.
Where the cops are.
Where the cops are, and Jeffrey's like, and Jeffrey pretends like there's nothing to hide, and there's also no body there either. And so we assume that Jeffrey has presumably gotten rid of her husk as well. But we can tell at this point that the police have also been taken over.
Oh, yeah. They're very mechanical. There's no diegetic sounds coming out of them.
There's no question. They don't question. They're just like, oh, where is Elizabeth? And he's like, I'm not telling you that. And she's like, and Jeffrey's like, oh, well, is she safe? He's like, yeah. He's like, well, then I won't question you about it. And like,
he doesn't press charges either.
Yeah, it's very odd. And so we get back to the bathhouse, and so we're kind of hanging out there for a little bit, and then
do we go back to the bathhouse after that?
Where do they go after that?
I think that they go to. I think they all go to what's his name, Matthew's place, and that's where they go, right? I think they go to Matthew's place.
I promised I watched this movie, guys.
No, I think that's where they go, and then they start talking.
Yeah, and then they start talking and try not to fall asleep.
Because they bring Elizabeth back to Matthew's place. That's where everybody is. And then Leonard Nimoy
talks to her and gives her some sort of sedative.
Yes, to make her go to sleep.
Yeah. And so Leonard Nimoy leaves, and he tells Matthew, Matthew's like, can we call the mayor? And all of this, and Leonard Nimoy's like, yeah, I'll be in my office in an hour. Call me in an hour, and we'll get everything figured out. So Matthew goes back to the Department of Health, starts trying to call people, isn't getting any answers, is just getting sent in roundabouts. They're saying everything's fine. Everything's fine. It's looking bright on the horizon. He's getting like 12 different people that are all saying that they're the mayor's special assistant.
I feel like we're getting this out of order, because I know that we definitely, if we got to the point where Nimoy gives her a sedative, then the next scene is whenever the pod start trying to take them over.
Oh my gosh, they do that, and then sorry.
Yeah, so I think that happened even before Matthew realized that she was in trouble. Is that
this movie's really hard because it goes back and forth. There are times where it's like not slow, like you're still intrigued the whole time, but it goes really slow. But then like 12 things happen back to back.
Yeah, it's okay. So
it's like a real life episode of 24. Like you'll like have a little lull, and I'm like, I can tell you exactly what happens in this 10-minute window, and then all of a sudden, 15 things happen, and you're like, what?
It's a very complex plot line.
They go to Matthew's. They try to get taken over by pod people. Matthew sees all their copies happening. They run, and then
when does he call the?
See, that's why I'm getting all mixed up. Yeah. See, this all happens in like 15 minutes.
So at some point during the movie, Matthew calls. The mayor and calls these other agencies.
And no one, he's just getting
and they're all like,
yeah.
there are no pod people, fuck you. And then he's like, okay. And then at another point in the movie, Elizabeth is given a sedative, and then Matthew goes outside and he starts to fall asleep. And
while he's watching over them, and then that's when they find the pod people. I think that Nimoy they leave, and then he goes to the office, because then it's that night, because it's the same night that Goldblum leaves them away. And yeah, that's how it goes. Yeah.
Wait, because I know that whenever Nimoy says that, it's the morning and they're on top of a roof.
Exactly, and I think that they're fine. I think that they're fine that first night, and then it's the next night that he's like, have the mayor call me, and then it's all of that happens, because I think
but
that it's
how do they
the phone
sleep
booth.
Without be turning into?
They don't sleep.
They don't sleep.
Remember? They don't sleep. I don't think they sleep that first night. Anyway, okay. So all this happens. Sorry, guys. I promise we watched this movie. It's just, if you've ever seen this movie before, I can assure you that you have the same problem that we're having right now. So anyway, isn't getting answers. Later that night, / the next day, we don't really know. You could say it was 24 hours later. Matthew is watching over the house, and he starts kind of falling asleep, and we see the pods start to like get little tendrils and crawl up, because that's how they absorb you, is by touch. And so that's how they absorb your DNA, and so they start crawling up Matthew's sleeve, and Matthew's eyes are kind of rolling in the back of his head, and so Nancy is the one that's up at this point, and Nancy,
thank God for Nancy.
Nancy's like wakes him up, because they start gestating, and you can start to see that they're taking on the forms of Goldblum and Matthew and Elizabeth and
I don't even think Nancy has. Does she have a pod at that point?
I don't know,
because she's awake.
Yeah, I don't think she has a pod. I think.
But then she goes out there and starts yelling, Matthew, Matthew,
and so they have to start running, and so Matthew beats the shit out of his copy, because his is almost
with some hesitation too.
He can't. He sees Elizabeth's and can't do it to Elizabeth's because he's so in love with her. But he kills his own. He shovels it to the face. And so they start running. And then they get to an alleyway.
Like a warehouse alleyway situation.
Where all of the pod people are chasing them, and Jeff Goldblum is like,
sacrifices himself.
Exactly. And so
on the fly.
Exactly. That was beautifully done.
Thank you.
And now I have that Childish Gambino song stuck in my head. To Fly, Jeff Goldblum. Took me forever to get, by the way.
Firefly.
It is Firefly.
I don't know if he says
Anyway, so
they split up.
No, it's not Firefly. It's Sweatpants. Anyway, not the point.
So he sacrifices himself, and Nancy chases him.
Exactly.
So that means Matthew and Elizabeth are left alone, and they kind of wait out the rest of the night and barely survive. And then they go to this place where it's like there's a flashing...
It's like City Hall or something.
I think they go to City Hall where they work.
Yeah.
And then they go into this place.
And they see like the janitor and stuff who have all been taken over by pods.
Who is a producer in the movie.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Little note. So
they try to survive the night.
By taking speed. And they find some speed. There's a little bit of comedy here. It's... Like, I don't think it was intentional, but whenever they came... I think
it's like our Rosencrantz and Guildenstein, just like our little comic break.
You need it. You need a little chuckle, because you need a little shred of humanity. Because that's what they're fighting for.
Exactly.
They have to be able to say, how many should we take? We'll take 5. It's a little chuckle.
5, just so that they can stay awake.
It's a lot like this podcast. We're not trying to be funny, but if it happens, it happens.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That was our original motto. Anyway, so... So they get to City Hall, they take the speed or whatever, And Leonard Nimoy catches them, and Matthew's like, "Oh, thank heavens."
Jeff Goldblum's there too.
Turns out Leonard Nimoy was Pod Person
All
and had
along.
been working with the thing all along, because we had seen some foreshadowing earlier, because Nimoy had gotten in the car with the mayor and Jeffrey, and he's like, "The sooner the better."
And this is the point where they start to try to give them sedatives to make them go to sleep.
And he's like, "You have." It made me laugh because he was like, "You're going to be asleep in 1 hour." And it just like they made 24 references just throughout the whole thing, and it made me laugh. And so,
this is the point where they kind of explain a little bit where they come from.
Yeah,
Nimoy goes on to say that they come from other planets, and it's the only way they can survive. They've done this several other times, and this is what they do, and like it's not gonna be that bad. You keep your memories and all this stuff.
And Jeff Goldblum's like, "You keep your memories, and like it's gonna be fine."
Yeah.
And Matthew is just like desperate. And he's just like looking at Leonard Nimoy. And he's like, "You're killing me." He's like, "You're killing me, Kibner. You're killing me." And so finally they escape. They get out and they run into Nancy.
Yes.
Who is still alive, and she's like
looking for Jeff Goldblum.
She's looking for Jeff Goldblum, and Matthew.
But who isn't, right?
Yeah. Hey yo.
Hey yo.
And so Matthew kind of tells her in a roundabout way, because he just doesn't have the heart to tell her that.
Yeah.
Because he's killed Jeff Goldblum at this point. They've killed Nimoy and Jeff Goldblum. Matthew had to kill him.
Yeah.
To escape, and so they find Nancy, and she's like, "They can be fooled, just don't show emotion." And so they're trying to kind of get past them, and they wind up.
They see this dog, because we should say earlier that there's a
homeless man
that has a dog, and he plays
Harry
the banjo.
And Pooch. Yeah, Harry and Pooch. And so earlier on in the movie, Matthew, they're kind of reoccurring characters. Matthew sees them every day. So then this dog comes up, and you look, and it's an amalgamation of
the
Harry
homeless
and
guy.
Pooch, because they were laying so close together.
Whenever the pod people.
Exactly, and so
I think that's where Mars Attack got the idea, right? Because Mars Attack has something similar.
Well, I mean, I think that this was actually the pilot for Turner and Hooch. They just didn't have the rights.
Oh, you mean turn into Hooch?
We play off of each other so well.
Oh God.
And so Elizabeth screams, and that's when they realize that her and Matthew aren't pod people, and Nancy
gets away. No, Nancy did the right thing there, because it's better to get separated than to all die together. And I mean, Nancy throughout the entire movie is the only person who has the proper survival instincts.
Well, see, and they're lining up to pick up their pods, because they're sending people who have family in different parts of the state and even the country with pods.
Is that what that is? Because I was wondering if
that's why they're like families within, I think it's like San Fernando and
Okay.
In this line, yeah. So they're sending.
I was wondering what that was. If that was people
different areas. That's why they're trying
there's
to
people
disperse
carrying
them by
pods.
families.
In my mind, I was like, okay, are these people that have already turned into pod people, or are these people that are giving up?
No, the pods. The pods are what you start out as, and that's when Jeffrey is seen throughout the city, meeting with important figures. The pods are what you give people, and then the husk are what is left.
Okay.
Because it's like when we see them gestating in the scene where Matthew's sleeping, they start out as pods, and then they expand.
Yeah, well, I got that, but I was just saying the people that were carrying the pods towards the end of the movie.
I think they're going to different places.
Okay, see, but the other idea I had was maybe that these are already, there could either be pod people already that are doing exactly what you're saying, or they could be people that have given up, and they're just going to get their pods, and they're just like, I guess it's kind of pointless to resist.
Yeah, I know.
I don't know.
So
you're probably right.
I mean, it's like at the scene when we have a taxi driver early in the scene. It's when Elizabeth and Matthew are trying to get away, and this part bothered me because he comes over the radio and he's like, "Yeah, they're type H." Okay, Elizabeth and Matthew.
Yeah.
How did you not realize type H meant type human? How did you not realize that?
Yeah.
I realized that in 3 seconds. That type H was
well, I think they may have realized it, but what are they going to do? Are they going to get out of a moving cab? They did the right thing, and they got away. And then at that point, they end up near the dockyard or wherever the ships come in. And they stop for a rest because Elizabeth hurts her ankle.
Well,
and then they start. They're laying there, and then they hear the beginning of a song. It's a song we all know, "Amazing Grace." How sweet the sound.
Well, see, you know that the cab driver was Don Siegel, who had poor eye. He was the director of the original, and he actually had really bad eyesight and wasn't wearing his glasses. And so that whole scene, why they look so tense, is because he could not see. He would have his glasses on. Yeah, he was the director of the original, and so that's why he was driving crazy. Fun fact.
Cool.
So they make it out. They get separated from Nancy, and Elizabeth hurts her ankle, as Zach said. And so they hear "Amazing Grace," and they see a ship. And so Matthew, they're like, oh my God.
We can get on a ship.
We can get on a ship. Matthew goes and looks, and the ship
is being
filled with pods.
Filled with them. To the brim with pods.
To the brim of pods. A Melville classic. And
then the music stops, and then we only hear non-diegetic sounds.
Yep. And so Matthew's just kind of like hopeless. So he goes back to Elizabeth, who is in
REM sleep.
REM sleep.
Yeah. See, I brought that
the
back.
end of the world, and she knows it. And so Matthew is holding her and like trying to get her to wake up, and
Great
she
scene.
Just withers. She withers away.
And Donald Sutherland nails that scene.
Yeah, because at this point they have we know that they love each other.
Because they said it.
They love each other.
Yeah.
They've even kissed while they've been hiding.
And this is where
New Elizabeth.
This is where nips come back into play, because this is whenever you notice not only the fact that she withered away in Donald Sutherland's hands, that it's no longer Elizabeth, but we see that the transformation is complete because she is standing behind him,
completely
breast
nude.
Exposed.
Did you know that scene had to be shot with her in clothes and without her in clothes, because they could ABC only agreed to show it if she was clothed.
Really?
So when you watch it on ABC,
she's clothed.
She's clothed.
Oh yeah, that's why. Okay, because I saw a trailer for it where because later in the movie, she has clothes on, and when she's pointing at Matthew and screaming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so
because in the one I watched both times that I've seen it, she was nude.
Exactly. And so now Matthew.
That's why I watched it originally. I didn't know it was going to be a good movie. I just knew there was some boobs in it.
Nips.
I'm kidding. Yeah. I wish I was kidding.
So Matthew at this point is like, you know what? Fuck it. And this is when, he becomes Kiefer Sutherland in 24 and starts
cutting down light bulbs.
Exactly. And he goes into what looks like the IKEA of pod factories, because, you go in, you get lost, and then you never come out the same. And so he goes in there and he just starts setting shit on fire and just tearing everything down, which
Swedish meatballs to the wall. Yeah, I know.
That was nice. Okay.
Thank you.
Which the cool thing about this part is that Sutherland performed his own stunts. He demanded that he performed his own stunts, and so the pod factory scenes, there's no harness or anything. That is just him running through with real pyrotechnics. But he barely missed a fireball, but an extra got severely injured because they missed their cue and they got major burns.
Damn.
So this is actually Sutherland running through there, and
badass scene.
It's a really cool scene.
I gotta tell you, I did not like Donald Sutherland because I didn't really know him very well before this movie.
Well, but, he also looks like John Heder from Napoleon Dynamite with that perm.
Yeah, but honestly, this is the best acting performance I have ever seen in context of a horror movie.
He did a really good job, and so
I defy you to name a better actor, and you don't have to do it this episode.
Well, this is my. You have to realize that Donald Sutherland to me kind of is associated as a scream king, just because he was also Merrick in Buffy the Vampire Slayer the movie. He was the original
I did not
Watcher.
know that.
Yeah, so this is also this is my second Donald Sutherland. He's great in this movie, but just in my heart, I have to put that first because I grew up on Buffy and that's the original Christy Swanston Merrick. So anyway, he sets everything on fire, and Elizabeth is yelling at him. As I said, it's a squealing pig noise.
I'll add it in later in post.
Well, yeah, it's just gonna be that. And so he gets out,
runs down, hides under a stairwell, or not a stairwell. That was earlier in the movie where they all hide under a stairwell, but he hides under this little dock area.
And they're like,
"It's okay, we'll get him. He has to sleep sometime." And then cut to the best. The best. Hold on, I'll take it again. The best scene in any movie I've ever seen.
So it cuts to Donald Sutherland, and he's working just at his job and walking through and just going through the mundane routine that we
the minutia.
The normal. And so
gets in line with people that are walking.
And so you can just tell there's something off. You're like, this is weird.
It's either he is adhering to what Nancy told him to do to show no emotion.
We don't know.
Yeah.
We don't know what's going on at this point, and we almost feel with some of his facial expressions that
it maybe is actually Matthew.
It may be actually Matthew. And so finally he meets Nancy in the park, and she's so excited. And she comes running up to him, and she's like, Matthew. And then he opens his mouth
and points at her.
And
then the camera zooms in.
And she screams. And it's so heartbreaking and gut-wrenching.
That scene affected me more than any other scene in any other movie or any TV show. And that's including Lost. And people know how highly I think of Lost.
And so we just zoom into Matthew's mouth and then we cut to black.
It gave me goosebumps. It gave me shivers. It made my spine tingle. It affected me so much that I ran out of my room and told anybody that would listen about that movie for the next 7 years of my life.
Well, I mean, and even this movie plays off of one of my favorite Goosebumps episodes, which is don't go into the basement where the dad's taken over, and it's a very similar situation. Sure. And so it's just playing off of the idea that humanity's completely lost. And so here's why this scene works so well. Only Kaufman, W.D. Richter, and Sutherland knew how this movie was going to end.
What?
Veronica Cartwright had no idea. I think in her head, she thought it was going to be Matthew.
Yeah.
She had no idea. So her reaction is genuine because she had no idea. None of them knew. Only those three knew.
And that was the first take? Oh, shit.
Yeah.
And so, do you think that they had the pig sound on cue, or was it just Donald yelling, you think?
I don't know if it was just that or if she just knew. I mean, by the fact that he pointed and opened his mouth, I think that they could have even added that in post. I think that she would just know. Mm-hmm. So that
is awesome.
Yeah, right?
What would you change about this movie?
What would I change? Okay, here's my cool new segment.
Okay.
If you could remake this movie with an ideal cast...
Okay.
Who would you use to remake it? Because I have a couple ideas.
Go ahead. You do yours, and then I'll start thinking of characters.
I want to bring back Jeff Goldblum as Kibner.
Okay.
Bring him back as Kibner.
That's Nimoy's character, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I think Amanda Seyfried would be really good at Nancy.
Okay. I can see that.
Because she has such a really good range.
Okay.
I think for Matthew, someone kind of acting neutral.
I have somebody.
Who?
Mark Duplass.
Ooh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's a great idea, Zach.
And then for Elizabeth, we could do... I think it would be cool. I had it and I lost it. Oh my gosh.
Okay, I'm going to start doing mine a little bit and you can come back to that. So for Matthew, I got Mark Duplass.
I agree with the Mark Duplass.
Guess who I get to direct it? Jay Duplass. Okay.
Saw that coming. Ooh, what about somebody like Jason Segel or somebody for Matthew?
I could see that. Yeah, I mean, Jason
that.
Segel's making a switch to dramatic acting, so I could see that.
And so for the character of Elizabeth, I feel like I would want someone like...
An up-and-comer.
Yes. Or someone that's barely been in anything. Oh my God. I had it...
You know who I could see do it? Emma Stone. I think she could do it. I like this segment.
I do, right?
Yeah,
it's really cool
I would like to have a warning next time so I could. Sorry. But I like on the spot thinking too, and
that's why I just wanted to bring it up on the spot because I thought it'd be a more cool. You know who would be a really good Elizabeth? Okay. Now I thought of her name. It's Jane something. I don't think of her last name, but she was in the Evil Dead remake.
Okay, I know who you're talking about.
I think she would be a really cool Elizabeth.
Okay, very cool.
I think she'd be a really cool Elizabeth. Yeah, but that's
That's a good... I think that's a good
cool
one.
Segment. Yeah. But Amanda Seyfried as Nancy, I think would be awesome. I would totally...
Who would play Jeff Goldblum's character? You know who I think?
Who?
Adam Brody.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, I would be totally... Yeah, because he's very Seth Cohen when he's arguing with Jeff Goldblum. But I want Jeff Goldblum back as Kibner. I think that's awesome.
You have to have somebody in it, And we'd have to have maybe the janitor. Guess who it is? Donald Sutherland. Just to have, keep that tradition going. Keep Nicole Kidman out.
And then
No offense to Nicole. Well, Jason Bateman should be in it.
Yeah, somewhere. Jason Bateman could be Jeffrey.
Yeah.
He'd be a really good Jeffrey.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I want to see his new movie, by the way.
Yeah, I heard it's really good.
I really want to see it.
Yeah.
So...
What would you change?
What would I change? I don't know.
I say, and this isn't really about the movie. This is really just about, a way to optimize the movie watching experience, and I think that the best way to do that is to go in having watched the original movie. That's what I would change about it.
I think
it's kind of a cop-out of an answer. But
there's not a lot I would change with this just because, I don't think it's perfect. No, I will honestly say no movie's perfect.
This is as close, in my humble opinion, this is as close as it gets.
Yeah, but I think the only thing that I would change a little bit of would maybe, and I hate to use I feel like this is a cop-out answer too, but maybe make Elizabeth a little bit more of a badass, because like she's pretty much a badass, but there are times where like her helplessness kind of.
I don't know if she's ever a badass.
Well, I mean, I think so. Like,
I think the only badass female character we get is Nancy.
But I think I want Elizabeth to be more of a badass, to be more of like an Annie from the Birds, like more of like, just like a badass, like a Sidney Prescott.
Survivor girl.
Yeah.
Which is a term we'll come back and talk about later.
Yeah. Like legitimately later, like in an hour.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just want her as like a Laurie Strode, a Sidney
Sidney Prostitute.
Sidney Prescott. Like, I want her to be like a really cool badass character. Mm-hmm. I don't think the movie would have the same impact if she survived, but I think that she could be a badass and go out like
maybe her death would have more of an impact.
Yes.
If
she had been like fighting the whole time.
All right, what do you give this movie on a scale of 1 to 10?
9.5.
9.5?
Yeah.
I give it a 9.8, tied with my highest rating I've given so far, The House of the Devil. This movie changed the way I looked at not only horror movies, but all movies in general. And I realized how important a really good ending is, and how bad M. Night Shyamalan is at understanding that.
Well, I see, speaking of House of the Devil, to me, Elizabeth looked a lot like our main character.
Oh, yeah, maybe we could
Sam.
use her.
Yeah.
Sam from, that would be really good, yeah.
It really runs that.
Yeah.
So that, I'm trying to think if I have any more cool facts.
I'm out of them.
When Kevin McCarthy, who's the star of the original, came frantically up to them, naked homeless man walked by and said the original was better. So they were shooting this. Yeah.
Wow.
And then also Donald Sutherland actually got hit by a Volkswagen Beetle, like a car, just like a civilian car, if you will. And he heard the driver say, "Oh my God, not you," because he was so scared because he hit Donald Sutherland. And so, yeah.
Damn, very cool.
Also, Kaufman, who's the director of this movie, wrote on all the Indiana Jones movies.
This is true.
Screenwriting.
Yes.
So, yeah.
There's a picture of him with George Lucas and Steven Spielberg. They're all sitting next to each other.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Look it up. It's a cool picture.
I had one more question for you, actually.
Yeah, go ahead.
Do you think that the aliens would have been as successful in a world in our society right now with all the technology and everything we had?
I do
think
not.
It would have been easier or harder?
Much more difficult to take over from where we're at. Much more easier communication with the easy access to filming. They could really illustrate what's going on a lot easier. That thing goes viral. They can't control the internet unless they get to. Well, I don't even think you can control the internet anymore. It's so out of hand. So no, I think that our generation would fare a lot better. And then if there were to be a remake, it would have to be a timepiece, or it wouldn't be believable.
Oh yeah, it would have to be a timepiece, or it would have to play. I don't want it to be anything like Purge or whatever that Kristen Stewart movie is that they make fun of her for in Forgetting Sarah.
No, that's not Purge. It's
not Purge. Oh, I was thinking the Purge. It's is it Surge?
It's something like that. It's stupid.
I feel like it's something that anyway.
I watched 5 minutes of it and I was like, all right, I'll watch the rest of it. So then I finished it.
Yeah. So Bone Plugs and Harmony.
Bone Plugs and Harmony. Let's.
You go first.
I finished the rough draft for A Comedian.
I saw the Facebook picture. It's real, guys.
It is real. It is really happening. I have gotten feedback from one person. I really appreciate it. Shout out to my brother Cameron, even though, what I said earlier, I still love you, buddy. You're still my best friend on the whole planet. And I really do appreciate your feedback. Great notes. And that should be coming very soon, along with some stand-up I will be performing very soon as well. It's called A Comedian. It will be on YouTube, probably Facebook. Maybe put it on MySpace, Google search.
All the interwebs.
All the interwebs you can think of.
Maybe Cameron got taken over by a pod person.
Shut up! No, you're right. He probably did.
I'm on Twitter at Bailey McLeod.
Yeah.
I have pieces on Hello Giggles now, so you can go to the contributors page. I'm on the third page. Click on my name.
And if
I have 2 pieces up.
If you have any questions, if these pieces are good, just ask the star of the hit Fox series New Girl, and maybe she'll fill you in.
All right. Zoe Deschanel shared one of my posts on her Facebook.
Okay, let's say that slower.
Zoe Deschanel shared one of my posts on her Facebook page.
Zoe Deschanel shared one of my co-hosts' pieces on Facebook, unabashedly so.
Okay.
What a great woman you are, Zoe.
So that happened. I have a blog. NobodyPutsBaileyInTheCorner.wordpress.com. That's a thing. Casting Out Demons. Be sure to follow us on Twitter. At COD_podcast. Also, we have a Gmail, just castingoutdemons@gmail.com. and like us on Facebook, because I've been posting some fun stuff up there.
Yeah, she really has.
Like that video game that I found.
Yeah.
That's super cool.
I should have told you about that sooner. Yeah, me and Wayne
right.
talk about that all the time.
Really cool.
Speaking of, Wayne is very interested in coming on the podcast very soon. Yeah, so.
Sweet. I have him. We have him on sketch.
Yeah. So I also want to plug my Twitter handle. It is you hit the @ symbol and then you go get the cupboard from Indian in the Cupboard, and you let whatever toys you decide to put in there, doesn't matter what you get, you let them out and let them fight around on my keyboard for a good 37 minutes, and be sure the @ key is held down, and have yourself a little perusal of my tweets, which are sometimes pretty hilarious.
He even follows Taylor Swift on Twitter,
I do.
So you know he's legit.
I can't wait to really follow her this year, since I will be turning 22.
I'm enjoying my last couple days of dressing up like a hipster and making fun of my exes, so I'm excited.
So that's it.
That's it. And remember, ghosts have feelings too.
The sequel. Casting Out Demons is sponsored by Sutherland Connections Incorporated. Sutherland, the only connection you need. Created by Bailey McLeod Perkins. Starring